up guys, Eric with Verus Engineering. This is our shop, A90 Toyota Supra. As you can see, we've done a lot with it. The community has really appreciated that. High downforce front splitter and air dam, high downforce end plate, dual element dive planes, polyweave side splitters, rear diffuser with polyweave rear spats, anti-buffeting wind deflectors, V1X rear wing element, which produces a lot of downforce. Then we have the bottom mount UCW and the top mount swan neck UCW as well. Carbon hood louver, and something else coming soon. And that doesn't include all the stuff in the engine bay, the cooling components that are coming out soon, and the flappy paddles on the inside. Last but not least, our intake duct, which features an OEM fit and a GT4 appearance. We basically take this and we ensure that the intake gets cold air force fed from the front of the car. This part often gets overlooked because it looks like an OEM part, but rest assured, we actually produce it and we've improved upon the factory setup so that the intake, again, gets really cool air from the front of the car, force fed into the airbox. Now let's take it back to the shop and show you how that intake works. All right, so we're going into Suite 6, which is where we keep some of our finished product. This is basically some warehousing. We also have some in 10. So we're gonna basically try and find our intake duct, which I've been told is down this row somewhere. Don't know. Oh, those are brake cooling ducts. There's the intake ducts. All right. Ugh. Looks like we got an intake duct. All right, so we have the intake duct in most of its entirety. We're missing some double-sided tape, but we have the duct in its entirety on this table. It kind of goes on like so. We have some grommets that also clear and plug this up, but this goes right here underneath the bumper, bolts onto a few factory locations, and then this silicone duct actually goes on the carbon duct and then to the factory airbox right here. And it completes basically a circuit in that the high pressure air at the front of the bumper is actually going directly into the airbox, and that also means cool air is going directly into the airbox. And this whole project kind of started out when we were doing the heat shield testing, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and I threw a thermocouple in the intake. So basically right after the airbox, and we were seeing something like 20 to 30 degrees above ambient in the airbox, and that shouldn't be the case, to be honest. You know, it's right there, it's at the front of the engine bay, and then it's pulling air from somewhere in this bumper, which is basically getting heated up by the radiator. At least that's my assumption. The radiator and the heat exchanger from the charge cooler. And if the turbo is seeing 80-degree temperatures instead of 50 or 60-degree temperatures, that turbo is going to work that much harder to produce the pressure and it's going to also output a little bit hotter charge air. So then that charge cooler is actually working harder. So this cool air intake actually improves performance, reduces the temperature that the turbo is seeing, allows the turbo to breathe a little bit easier and at a lower temperature, and then also helps that charge cooler, which is the heat exchanger as well, work a little bit less harder. We haven't done any testing where it actually matters, which is at the intake manifold. However, we did repeat that test and we showed that we were like 5 to 10 degrees above ambient instead of like 25 to 30 at the air intake or the air box. So this was really working out well. And we kind of did a little bit of design flair on this in that with this installed and with the location that it is installed, it looks like a GT4 Supra. So the GT4 actually uses it for radiator cooling or heat exchanger cooling, which may be beneficial as well. But we ended up using it as an air intake, or a cold air intake, which is also pressurizing the intake box. And it seems to be a pretty popular upgrade for those super guys that want to run that and still run the factory airbox. I'm sure some of you have seen that some people run without a headlight in that area. That's because that air intake is right there. That's another great way to run cooled air. However, it is illegal, as far as I know, is running 1 headlight instead of 2 headlights. So this is a great legal way to get cold air into that factory airbox or into at least that area of the intake or the engine bay. So we have other people that run it with an open intake and then they just shoot that air, cold air into that intake area. And I'm assuming that helps as well instead of just letting whatever hot air in the engine bay reside there. All right, guys, that was a kind of brief overview of one of our Supra products. I have to get out of here and program the machine to go do some other stuff. Until next time.